Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing probably the best IV Ultra League Armarouge you have ever seen. Now, Armarouge evolves from Charcadet, which cannot be encountered in the wild. It can only be found through research breakthroughs or through hatching eggs, which all have an IV floor of 10. However, thanks to a low friendship trade, I was able to get the rank 14 Ultra League Armarouge, 1 attack, 12 defense, and 15 HP. Now, is Armarouge very good in the Ultra League? Not particularly, but against all odds with very careful gameplay, I was able to have back-to-back-to-back positive sets with it in the 3100s. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a tough start in game number 1 with a disastrous lead, leading Armarouge into Shadow Dust Noir. I safe switched into Florges, and thank goodness it appears my opponent does not have a strong answer to this Pokemon. They fire off Shadow Punch. I'm going to return fire with the Moonblast, hoping my opponent tries to call the Chilling Water. And the bait works, Moonblast lands, opponent going to be pivoting out, in comes Raikou, and I'm going to build back up to the Moonblast and bait with Chilling Water. The Chilling Water bait is successful, getting a shield from Raikou, and now I can send an Armarouge, and they can't really throw the Aura Sphere here, so they're going to have to go for Wild Charge. But my opponent has a surprise for me. They are not running Wild Charge, instead they're running Shadow Ball, and that is going to be a bit of a problem. I shield up as they go for the Aura Sphere. I'm going to try and get the double up on Psyshocks, but they're on their 4 cycle for Aura Sphere, and suddenly, I go from 2 shields and a full health Armarouge to 0 shields remaining in a split second. Armarouge at the back-to-back Psyshocks I'm going to throw as they bring in the Dust Noir, but to my surprise, they don't bring in the Dust Noir. Instead, it's just going to be the Stunfisk. Stunfisk will get chipped down by the Psyshock. Stunfisk going to look to try and farm down, but they cannot. The 1-12-15 Armarouge hangs on 1 HP, making Psyshock number 2, and just like that, they've lost almost their entire Stunfisk. In comes Guzzlord. The thing I will have to be very mindful of is their one-off dynamic on the Dust Noir. So I have to watch for the switch. I go for the catch. I don't get the catch, but I do get the Chilling Water. Chilling Water is going to be forcing my opponent's final shield, and that should hopefully mean that I can survive Dynamic Punch. It's going to be close. Dynamic Punch lands. We survive due to the debuff. Farm down and leave with the back-to-back Brutal Swings. But did I do enough Dragon Tail damage where the Stunfisk will get KO'd here? This is a CMP tie. Brutal Swing takes the knockout. And against all odds, we get the win. We move to game number 2 and pick up a pretty rough lead, Armarouge into Shadow Ampharos. Brutal Swing would be deadly. I try and go for a catch onto Florges. Ampharos farms up back-to-back charge attacks and then brings out Abomasnow. If I was running the standard Chilling Water plus Trailblaze, I would be walled here, but Moonblast is going to connect and deal devastating damage to the Abomasnow. Weather Ball Ice is not going to cut it. They're going to have to be full sending Energy Ball if they want to take the knockout, and that's just going to feed 20 free energy to Armarouge. Unfortunately, I'm still far behind where the Ampharos is on energy. They are over 2 Brutal Swings of energy. I don't really want to throw an alignment, so I will try and just go for a switch out into the Guzzlord, and in the back, they have Shadow Toucannon. Being down a shield to Shadow Toucannon is often game over. The good news for me is I have so much stored energy. Guzzlord was able to outpace, get the shield back, and now it's a 50-50 call. I shield, it's the Beak Blast, and that is a massive swing of momentum. Unfortunately for me, I'm now debuffed. I'm hoping that the Sludge Bomb will set up a farm down for me. Sludge Bomb lands, they do not get KO'd by the Dragon Tail, and I'm forced to fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing into Toucannon is going to be no shielded. Back in comes the Ampharos. Ampharos is going to have to throw all of its energy if they want to take the knockout. Ampharos is running the surprise nuke of Zap Cannon. They KO the Guzzlord, but I have back-to-back charge stacks on the Armarouge. Psyshock lands, down goes Ampharos, and that is a good game. We move to game number 3, picking up a negative lead Armarouge into Shadow Torterra. Shadow Torterra is able to fully farm down Armarouge in this matchup, but to my surprise, my opponent doesn't throw the Frenzy Plant. They could have thrown the Frenzy Plant and at the very least forced a shield. But now, they're going to get a farm down, but they're going to have to give up both shields to do so. So in my eyes, it's really not worth it. I send in Guzzlord, they throw instantly. Did they blind through the Frenzy? No, they did go for the Stone Edge. Stone Edge is going to land, and they pivot out into Shadow Raikou. And anytime you see Torterra, you can safely assume it's going to be double electric in the back. If that's the case, then my Guzzlord is in prime position to sweep. Raikou going to be firing off Aura Sphere, but I will put up the shield, and I will go for a slight undercharge on the Brutal Swing. I want to put them into 1 Dragon Tail range, so I will miss a few bubbles, but unfortunately Raikou will get KO'd, so I didn't undercharge quite enough. They can't really afford to bring back in the Torterra. If they do, it's just giving farm. And there it is, Thunder Shock Belly Bolt. And this Guzzlord is just about to absolutely feast. Guzzlord going to be spamming out Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing. And Parabolic Charge just does such little resisted damage that Guzzlord just simply does not have to care. Guzzlord is going to make it to another brutal swing, just getting more and more damage onto this Belly Bolt. Belly Bolt now rapidly approaching the red HP. The damage has been done. Guzzlord did its job. I can send in Florges and clean up the game. In comes Florges. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the next match. Oh, we've got another Raikou on the lead, but this time it's the Shadow, and this time it's on Volt Switch. Volt Switch Shadow Raikou, that's not a Pokemon you see every day. Instead of trying to boost up my Incinerates, I opt to go for the pacing of Psyshock. Psyshock is able to get the shield. My Incinerates are adding up quite a bit, but I'm taking massive damage from the Volt Switches. Raikou is going to go for the Aura Sphere bait. They make Charge Attack number 2. I'm going to be shielding up the Wild Charge and looking to farm down. But this Raikou is actually on Shadow Ball. They send out Dusknoir. Dusknoir tries to snipe down, but is unsuccessful. I'm barely able to hold on to the energy on Armarouge and send in the Guzzlord. Guzzlord gets rocked by Dynamic Punch. That's going to hit for some pretty significant damage. I fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing lands. Dusknoir hangs on, and they win Charge Attack priority over the Guzzlord. Getting damage onto the Dusknoir is actually the best case scenario for me, because this will set up a really nice farm down for Florges. Florges exits with quite a lot of energy. The Raikou's low, and they bring it in. Can I get the Fairy Wind down here? No, I cannot. Raikou hangs on 1 HP, and they leave with a parting gift of a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball gets me very low in the back. It's the perfect Pokemon for me to see. It's Virizion. Moonblast into double Psyshock is going to be lethal, and there's just no way out for Virizion. Virizion puts up the shield, but there's more where that came from. Armarouge, back-to-back Psyshocks, knocking out Virizion and securing the game. We move to the next match, battling against a man named Tabasco Sauce. And Tabasco Sauce has a very rough core breaker for us, as we end up leading Armarouge into Empoleon. Now, Empoleon is going to do very well into the Armarouge and, of course, into the Florges. So this is not a fun Pokemon to see. The Empoleon actually ends up catching out, as they will make a catch of the Flame Charge onto Runerigus. Now, Runerigus, my best answer is going to be the Guzzlord, so I send it in here. In hindsight, maybe I should have potentially brought in the Florges and tried to save the Guzzlord, as it is my best Empoleon answer. But in the moment, I was thinking, I can just get rid of the Runerigus. They're more than likely going to bring back in the Empoleon into the Guzzlord, and I'll be able to get some good chip damage. Because even though I'm debuffed, I'm still very, very healthy on the Guzzlord. They're going to need 2 Drill Pecks minimum if they want to take the KO. But in the back, it's Clefable, and unfortunately, I'm just getting swept. There's just no way around it. I just cannot win this game. Flame Charge lands onto Clefable. They bank a ton of energy. Back in comes Empoleon, and I am in trouble. There's just no way out here. Empoleon and Clefable both so strong into the Florges. By not putting Florges on the Runerigus, unfortunately, now there's just nowhere for Florges to go. My opponent throws 1 Metal Sound. They'll be able to secure the knockout, and importantly, by throwing 1 instead of 2, and that KOing, they don't take the Incinerate damage. I send in Florges. I'm going to need energy if I want any chance in this game, but at this point, I already know the game's over. They have well over a Meteor Mash stored. I farm up to the back-to-back Chilling Waters. Chilling Water is going to be enough to secure the knockout, but they can just take this win with the Clefable. Back in comes Clefable. They're going to look to overfarm. They're not even worried about the Chilling Water because they know there's just no way for me to win. So the debuff lands, but it's simply too little too late, as Meteor Mash will easily secure the knockout. Back in comes the Guzzlord. They still have a shield, so I would need to build up to a Brutal Swing plus a Sludge Bomb. I can't get there, and that's a very cool team for my opponent, and we are going to take that loss. Armarouge versus Kyurem in the next match. Now this is actually not a bad lead. Kyurem is going to get to Glaciate when we get the Psyshock, but they can't really afford to throw Glaciate in this matchup. Instead, they're going to have to build up and try and bluff a Dragon Claw. We land the Psyshock, and just like that, they've lost almost their entire Kyurem. I put up the shield. They do end up going for the Glaciate bait, save switching into Feraligatr, and I will respond with Guzzlord. I know that Ice Beam does not knock out here, but if I end up no shielding, then if I want to keep the Guzzlord around, I'm going to have to shield a Hydro. So I decide to shield early. This way, I can prioritize HP and make the Feraligatr waste more energy by going for double Ice Beam. They end up shielding the first, and now I can fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing, it's not going to knock out, but it will put the Feraligatr potentially into Dragon Tail farm down range. Getting a farm down with Guzzlord would be absolutely massive. Ice Beam lands, that's big damage. Do we get the farm down? Yes, we do. Feraligatr faints as it makes the Hydro. Back in comes Kyurem. I don't want to take any extra Dragon Breath, so I just go straight for the Brutal Swing. That KOs. In the back is Jellicent, and I get aggressive and pivot into Florges. Now, Jellicent, obviously Guzzlord is the best matchup there, but I want to apply this Chilling Water debuff. The because Florges is already a pretty bulky mon, and once you debuff their attack, suddenly 2 Shadow Balls are not going to be enough to KO the Florges, and that means that I'm going to guaranteed land a Moonblast. They can't really afford to shield because they know the Guzzlord is so close to a move. I can make the Moonblast, Switch Timer should be up momentarily, and then Armarouge should be able to put in some pretty nice work. In comes the Armarouge, making it to the Psyshock. They're going to have to throw energy at the Armarouge, and if they do, they just get KO'd by the Brutal Swing. So, in a very rare turn of events, Armarouge flips the script against one of its hardest counters. Psyshock is going to knock out Jellicent and take the win. We move to the next game, Armarouge into Greninja. This is an even harder counter. I throw an Incinerate, save switch into Florges, they bank energy, go Venusaur, and at this point, I think I'm being stream sniped. To be clear, my opponent was not stream sniping whatsoever, but in the moment, I was completely shocked by their team, because their team is flagrantly ABA weak to Guzzlord, it's ABA weak to any dragon, and unfortunately, it's core breaking me to smithereens. If I want to find a win, I'm going to have to try and get aggressive. My opponent overfarms massively, knowing a Moonblast will not knock them out. Switch Clock comes up, in comes the Armarouge, but the Switch Clock just didn't come up in time to cue a 0-turn swap, so I get 1-turn swap, meaning that I don't get the snipe down. Back in comes Greninja. Greninja will be able to take the knockout with this Night Slash. Night Slash takes the KO, and it's all up to Guzzlord. But for this ABA week, then I'm probably just going to end up losing this game. Greninja fires off the Hydro Cannon. It's highly likely it's something like a Clefable in the back, because realistically, they probably have to have a good counter to dragons. So I just absorb Hydro Cannon after Hydro Cannon. I don't think a Brutal Swing will KO, so I fire off the Sludge Bomb, fully prepared to lose. Sludge Bomb takes the knockout in the back. Oh my goodness. They are triple weak to dragons like Guzzlord. Maybe there's a chance to win. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded. I continue the farm, but the thing that's worrisome is my opponent will get to boost up their attack with Torch Song. And even though these Incinerates are resisted, I don't think I can actually survive the Incinerates long enough to take home this win. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded. One Brutal Swing will not take the knockout. I'm going to need to make one more move. My problem is I don't live the next Incinerate, so I throw a Dragon Tail, transfer the Incinerate damage onto the Florges, and that allows me to make the last second Brutal Swing. By deferring the Incinerate damage onto the Florges, we survive, KO Skeleturge, and get the win. We pick up a decent lead in the next match, Armarouge into Weezing. Now, Galarian Weezing is going to be taking massive super effective damage from Psyshock. However, if they're on Brutal Swing, they can hit for super effective right back, and they are. But Brutal Swing is going to land. It looks like Brutal Swing will easily two-shot even a very bulky Armarouge. Armarouge definitely not known for its stats. I now get to farm up to 2.5 Psyshocks and really look to try and ramp up the pressure on my opponent. Psyshock is going to be shielded just off the Incinerates. They've already lost half their HP. I undertap Psyshock number 2, and I'm able to force my opponent's final shield. I now get the Psyshock. Unfortunately, my opponent is going to throw on good timing right before I get there. I'm just going to go for the undertap on the Psyshock, but they make a devastating catch, catching the Psyshock onto the Corviknight. Now, this is a pretty big problem. I can't rebank. If I try and rebank, they have 9-turn pacing. They can outpace and just take the knockout with Air Cutter. So I'm forced to throw one Incinerate, send in the Guzzlord, and my opponent is going to get the Air Cutter boost. Even +1, Air Cutter is not going to do a ton of damage. They go for Air Cutter number 2. They get a second boost. That's a 9% chance to get back-to-back boosts. And suddenly, I think that I'm in quite a bit of trouble. I definitely should have waited the turn before firing off that Psyshock. Getting that move caught is catastrophic, because now the Weezing is still alive, and the Weezing can absolutely run away with this game. I fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to be getting my opponent pretty low. I switch into the Armarouge, try for a snipe down with Incinerate, but they're able to save it, and in the back is Guzzlord. Guzzlord double resists Psyshock. Guzzlord does get a healthy energy head start, and it's highly likely that they're running Sludge Bomb. And if they are, I'm just going to lose way too much HP here. I know that I need a ton of residual energy to deal with the Weezing as well, and there's just no way that I can take the knockout and have enough residual energy needed to win the game, so I'm just not going to throw any moves. I know the game's over. My opponent just played better, and we're going to take our loss. We've got a battle of serious spice in the next match as I lead Armarouge into Hisuian Zoroark. I stay in, throw an Incinerate. Honestly, it looks like I win that matchup just because of how much damage the Incinerates do, but I don't really want to stay in and take the Shadow Claw, so I pivot out into Florges. They full send Shadow Ball. They're now going to be sending out a Primarina, and Zoroark is spicy. I can kind of see the idea. Primarina, I don't see the idea at all. I do, however, get a Moonblast debuff, and that chance debuff could potentially be a massive swing of momentum for me. I fire off Chilling Water, get the shield. They're now going to be at -2 attack. And that means they just simply don't have enough in the tank to KO the Florges. Hydro Cannon lands, Florges hangs on. I snipe down with Incinerate, and that is pretty nice because now I have an entire Psyshock ready if they send in Zoroark. But that's not Zoroark. They send out Guzzlord, and unfortunately, I have just completely walled. I do at least get to go for Flame Charge this time, which is only single resisted, but they're not going to let me get Flame Charge number 2. And I've seen how much Brutal Swing does. I am not surviving, even with my good IVs. So now I get to bring my Guzzlord into theirs. If they're on Dragon Claw, I could be in quite a lot of trouble. I'm hoping they're on the standard Sludge Bomb, and they are, thank goodness. The Sludge Bomb, it's going to do quite a lot of damage, but importantly, it will not be enough to take the knockout. I fire off Brutal Swing, they're forced to burn the shield. Even as they land the Sludge Bomb, I know that I should be able to have enough residual energy to take home this win. They go for the Sludge Bomb, I undertap the Brutal Swing, and I'm one off the next. And the Zoroark should still not be out of move. So when they bring in the Zoroark, I'm able to outpace and make the Brutal Swing. And Zoroark, I love it, but it's just too frail. Brutal Swing takes the knockout and secures the win. Hopping into the final match, leading Armarouge into Magnezone, an incredibly good lead. My opponent is going to save switch into a Togekiss, and this is not an answer to Armarouge. Togekiss's moveset is completely walled. Aura Sphere, Psyshock, Dazzling Gleam, any of the 3 charge attacks it runs, none of them can even hit for neutral. So I'm more than happy to no shield as they go for the Aura Sphere and fire off Psyshock number 2. So far, Armarouge's unique typing being a core breaker in this final match. Down goes the Togekiss, and what are they going to bring in next? To my shock, they bring in Magnezone. Magnezone getting torn to smithereens by these Incinerates. And I'm more than happy to absorb this energy on Guzzlord. In the back, they have Virizion. They were triple weak to Armarouge. My opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, I had a surprising amount of fun getting to run Armarouge. As I mentioned at the start, these battles took place. I started around 3140 elo. The queue times were pretty rough, but when you have an Armarouge as good as this, even if it's not a great Ultra League Pokemon, it's ranked outside the top 200, I think it's still worth playing and seeing what it can do. And I do think that with a competent supporting cast, it was able to pop off in some matches. That final match was probably my favorite one with the Armarouge. Either that or the game where I had no HP on any Mon and then Virizion ended up being the Hail Mary Winton, the light at the end of the tunnel, where I had 2 Psyshocks and a Moonblast, and that's the exact amount of damage that I needed to get rid of that Virizion. So this is definitely not a team for climbing whatsoever. Armarouge, I think that it is probably worthy of its, I think it's like rank 212 or something like that for the Ultra League. It's a Pokemon that has a really cool typing and moveset, but unfortunately, its limitations in coverage and the fact that its typing oftentimes ends up being more of a defensive liability than a plus definitely does limit it quite a bit in the Open Ultra League. But before Ultra League rotates out for a few weeks, I was just looking to have some fun. And hey, this team at its back-to-back-to-back positive sets ended up being quite fun to play. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. Thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.